Hey everybody, welcome back to the second part. This is the second part of the Power Girl illustration. I did make a mistake. I did not record this part here when I cleaned up the sketch. I came back to this later on, later on at night. So somewhere around like maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I forgot to record it. But the only thing you missed out on is I adjusted where the shoulder pad was, and I cleaned up the face and the hair. But we're going to be getting into the line work for this, and I'm just going to answer a question that I got in the other video about line work. Um, so when I said you want to have enough of the pencils figured out, like I couldn't do the line work on this. There's not enough information. I haven't added in the costume details. I haven't drawn in the face. If I did the line work for this, I'd probably turn out with a solid drawn figure, okay, to solid 90, but the costume I wouldn't have the costume down, and I'd be guessing. This layer here fills in that gap. So this layer here will fill in where the costume is. I have less guesswork to do, and I know I don't have to adjust proportions or anything like that. It's ready to go. Now this layer here fills in the gap for the face. So if I zoom in a little bit here, this layer here, while I could probably do the line work here, I'd be guessing around the chin, around the jawline. The hair is a little bit messy, so it'd be a lot of guessing. So when I would go in to do the line work, it would not look, it would take more passes to figure it out. So I would essentially be doing a tight pencil pass with ink, which is what I mean when I say get through a tight enough pencil stage so that the line work is easier to do. That's why I have this here for the face. This fills in most of those gaps. I'm not guessing at the jawline. I have enough of the costume detail in, the hair's ready to go. All I have to do is the line work. So it makes it a little bit easier. Now you might hear me say inks and line work. I mean line work. To me, inking is spotting black and rendering, and sometimes I do a little bit of that, but I am not what I would consider an inker. I mostly do line work so that I can do the rendering and details with color. I spot black here and there, but usually it's line work. So for the line work, I am going to start with the hair, try to get the hair figured out. It's going to be on its own layer because I'll probably do a color hold because Power Girl has blonde hair, and I don't always like how it looks with black lines. So we'll start roughly here. I'm just getting this adjusted. There we go. So the next part is when I said playing around with the system settings, I mean stuff in here and deep into like the wrench settings to play around with it to figure out what you like. So I'm going to go in and add this here. There we go. Never be too concerned with it being perfect because you can always fix it later, but you don't want to do too much um, stuff like this where you chop the line in. I can get away with it a little bit because of how this brush is set up. That's what I mean when I say being able to adjust the brushing and brush settings for what you have, because I've adjusted this to how I like to do this. I like to sometimes do one or two strokes to figure it out, which most brushes do not allow you to do. And it's probably not the best habit, but sometimes it helps to get the point that you're trying to get or the taper that you're looking for. It just helps to get to that line a little bit quicker. It's not advised that you do it that way. I wouldn't suggest making it a habit, but sometimes it's nice to have that option to just add in little bits of information like this to it. There we go. Now we can add in a little bit more of it. Yeah, just when you're doing the line work, just kind of take your time. Be confident in the lines that you're trying to shoot for. And if it's ever really off, just undo it. You can always erase it if you're doing it digitally. Like I know I'm gonna have to go from here to here. For me, going away from the body makes it a little bit easier. I'll also probably try to get the right level of zoom for it. That's why you see me zooming out. And you'll also see me flip the canvas from time to time. It's like you'll see me double up, sometimes triple up on lines because it adds line weight. I know where it connects. It should be a little bit thicker than when it's just a strand of hair. Same with the body, you see me do the same thing. Primarily because the certain parts of the body, when they overlap, the line should be thicker. So I'm trying to get that kind of a feel to it. The other thing you can always do is if you have a hard time with that is just adjust the stabilization. Like I said in the other video, most of the line work is figuring out what you like and don't like, and then figuring out what needs to be done to get it closer to what you like. It's not so much of it's got to be done like this because this is how this person does it. It's figuring out what you like, what you don't like, and then making the necessary adjustments to the settings that you're using to get close to that. Be confident in the lines that you go with, figuring out, know what that was, but figuring out what looks right to you, being confident with the lines that you throw in, and figuring out if going towards your body or away from your body feels more natural. That way you only have to do one line for it. Because a lot of people, I think, try to force the lines sometimes on their first go. Sometimes they forget that you can go back over it. Like if you don't like how a line looks, you can always do a second pass. You can always undo it. That's the whole point of doing this digitally. I also want to play around with how big the brush size should be for some of it. Sometimes making that small change to how thick the line should be does a really good job adjusting the line weights for you. Like in this part here, I should have just drawn through that and erased it because it would have been a little bit neater if I had just done that, because you can always erase that later. So we're just going to add this here. We're going to bring this line here. There we go. But yeah, line work's just patience and hoping that you get it mostly correct. And then going back in to make necessary adjustments to it and thickening up the lines and erasing what you need to erase. There we go. Now, that didn't turn out too bad. It was quick, not too painful. Now we'll do, like I said, we're going to do a color hold for the hair. So I'm just going to lock this so I don't accidentally draw on it or erase it for later. And now we can go through and start to work on the face a little bit. This face took so long to get right. I don't know what it was with it. I think it was just the perspective was a little bit off. So now we're just going to zoom in a little bit and we'll adjust. I think 20 should do the trick for this. So I'm just going to go in and turn this hair off. And we're just going to sketch in, well, not sketch in, but do the line work for the face itself. and we'll go from there. There we go. That looks about right. Just gonna thicken this line here. There we go. I also got asked a question on another video in regards to Loomis methods and stuff like that, because that's what you saw me using. Maybe we'll make a video out of that, but it does work, the Loomis method, because that's what you asked, but we'll do a full out video for that, I guess, because I got that question for it. To me, the Loomis method does work, but there are better methods to use depending on what you're doing. If you're doing um, portraits, there's better methods than the Loomis method. If you're drawing quick illustrations like this, it works perfectly fine for that. You can also use it for different character types, because I've seen a few other people say it doesn't work for that. I've to For me, you can do it. I think a lot of it is that most people have only ever actually watched other people draw the method, but haven't actually done it themselves. So they think that it gives you can't draw characters like the Hulk or Ben Grimm and stuff like that, and you fully can. You just have to learn how to break the rules that are involved with it, and that's the whole point of it. It's just to give you the foundational settings for you to learn how to draw it and um, how to figure out the overall proportions of the face, and it just gives you a starting point. You're not technically supposed to use it forever. It's just something to go, I need um, I need to be able to draw this face correctly, and it always looks a little off, and I don't know what it is. So it's to help fix that problem. Honest answer is, if you were drawing a face and you had a hard time with drawing in like where the eyes went, I would probably say the Riley method's better. It really depends on what you're doing. Just want to try something. Oop, that's too big. But yeah, because it mostly just depends on what you're doing. I think sometimes a lot of people try the method for like a week or two and then they go, it just doesn't work. But it's mostly you have to figure out the face proportions with it. Then it helps with perspective. You're essentially drawing 2-point perspective depending on the angle of the face, and that's where that method comes in handy. Because when you're doing the gesture drawings, it's easier to draw a circle. I guess most people would say a sphere or an A shape than it is to draw a box. Sometimes I think people say, "Oh, it doesn't work," and then you look at the drawings that they do, and they don't have all the steps quite there yet. It's something that's very uh, procedural, and you have to get all the steps right. And when you do it the first few times when drawing it, it takes a little bit to get a feel for it. You're not gonna you're not gonna start with it, and then within a day or two, it's gonna look um, perfect. It's always gonna look a little off. The idea is to just give you a starting point and figure out if your proportions are off, if the face looks wrong, and you'll see it faster because you have a methodology to measure it out. If you're measuring out how long the face should be, you're measuring out roughly where the mouth and nose should be, it's a good place to start. It's not a perfect method, and there are other methods that work really well. Like I said, if I was drawing portraits, I wouldn't use it. I would say you'd be better off using a grid, because you could just it'd be like A to Z, and then like one to you go say G and then 5, so you go row 5 and go over the letter G, and if you have the grid set up, you can see what's supposed to be in that that grid. It's more helpful to do it that way than to use the Loomis method, or honestly, probably even the Riley method at that point, because it's designed for um, portraits. They're handled differently. And I sometimes think people forget that you want to use the right method for what you're doing. To me, the Loomis method works. I've seen people who I had a buddy who can just draw a face out with a pizza slice. He used to draw like a giant triangle shape for it, and he used to be able to draw out a really solid looking face with a pizza slice. I can't do that, but I've seen him do that several times and get it to look correct in perspective. I don't know how he does it, but I have seen him do it numerous times. We'd be sitting there in gesture drawing class, and he'd whip out, instead of drawing a circle, he would draw a triangle for it. So it really just depends on what method you think works best for you. And to me, a lot of people try that method and then not realize that the circle they've drawn is too big or too small. Because if you draw it too big, you have to cut more off of the side of the circle. If you cut it too, or you make it too small, you cut a little bit less off, or you start over to get the right overall shape you're looking for. And sometimes that takes a while to get figured out. And after a while, you'll get a feel for it. But again, we'll do a quick video after this for how I would use it to draw different types of characters, just because that seems like a question or something I've seen on other videos that other people drawing when they're drawing. When they're drawing a face or a character, everyone always asks why come some people use it, other people don't. So I'll show you why I use it and how I go about breaking down different face types with it, and why I still use it. To me, it gives me the right kind of face, or a face that I mostly enjoy the look of. I mostly base it off of different people that I used to grow up watching on TV when I was a kid. I used to watch wrestling and stuff like that, so when I draw female faces, I tend to think of the female wrestlers that I used to watch. Tori Wilson and Trish Stratus and stuff like that. To me, they always had actually like a Tori Wilson always had like a beautiful smiling face, and I always try to keep something like that in mind when I draw my characters, especially for a female face. I don't quite, that's why I draw slightly larger chins and jawlines. Part of it is probably because of that. That's probably why I like people like Adam Hughes and Terry Dotson's artwork, just because they tend to draw them how I like to draw, how I feel, how I like the female face to look, which is it should have a bit more strong of a chin line, or at least a bit more of a shape to the jaw. Nothing wrong with um, having female characters with the pointy chins that people like, but when I was a kid, or I should say a teenager, I guess, they always had the most attractive faces and things of that nature, so I just try to capture that when I draw out characters. There we go. So we're getting there. Just going to bring this back here. So I think the light source will be from top right over here. So we're just gonna do a little bit of experimenting. There we go. Just going to bring that back a little bit. There we go. Back to the other one. Do you think... Go. That should do the trick. I will turn this back on. There we go. So we'll probably clean up that eye a little bit more, but as you can see, the bulk of it's coming together pretty quickly. The body will hopefully not take as long as the face does, and the hands will probably take a while too. I've always found the body the easiest part to draw. I made those lines too thin. It should be about a 50. There we go. So we'll just bang these here out, and we'll go from there. I'll probably speed this part up in the video so you don't have to watch all of this. I don't know how entertaining that will be, but I do have one other tip for drawing the line work, which is try not to over zoom in. I find when you do overly zoom in like this, it makes the lines sometimes so much harder to do, and you're also guessing at what it looks like for the rest of the body. So to me, just going to zoom it out a little bit. I want to get this so it's just away from, there we go. I'll clean that up with this. You can always clean it up a little bit and nobody will notice. But again, if you zoom in too far or too close, I find what you'll end up seeing is you'll have too many lines that you don't see the full picture of. And it'll end up, you won't know that something looks off until you zoom back out. And then when you zoom back out, you're like, oh, that looks off, and I gotta erase half of this and start it over again. You want to keep it so you can see, let's say, I try not to zoom in more than this. I can still see the upper body, part of the legs, where the face is. I don't want to, like, unless I'm drawing eyes, I might zoom in just a little bit more than that, but I try not to zoom in to the point where I don't see at least 40% of the image. Just because to me, it's too easy to do that and then not realize that something looks just a little off until it's too late for it. Now this part here is for the costume anyway. There's like 4 or 5 different versions of this, so I'm just going to keep it as a regular circle. I've seen some where it looks like it's dome shaped, but I think I will go with the twofer like this. Just do this. That should do. Clip it to the one below, and we'll just adjust it in there so it fits about here. That should do the trick. Alright, so the next part of this video is just going to be sped up because it's just going to be me cleaning up the drawings and getting through the rest of it. Then I'll jump in partway through and give any final thoughts on the video. Enjoy the rest. Right, so voiceover here. There wasn't anything for me to really jump in to discuss with the line work. I said I mostly just sped it up so this video wouldn't be too long, because I get the feeling the coloring video is going to be a lot longer than this. So I'm just gonna, like I said, speed this up so it's not too bad. Don't want to take up too much of your time. Like I said in the other videos, like I said, appreciate any questions, anything that comes through. As for the question about drawing faces in different types with the Loomis method, I'll do a video for that. You can look forward to it. Keep drawing and keep creating, and I'll see you in the next one.